Hello, English learners. Welcome back to Daily English Talks. My name is Mia, and today we're diving into one of the most common questions that every English learner asks at some point. How can I improve my English vocabulary in the best and most effective way? If you're watching this video, it's probably because you're looking for ways to sound more natural, confident, and fluent when speaking or writing in English. Maybe you've been studying grammar, practicing speaking, or watching English shows, but still feel like your vocabulary is not growing as fast as you want. Don't worry, you're not alone. Vocabulary growth can be slow and sometimes frustrating. But the good news is that with the right approach, it becomes not just easier, but also more enjoyable. Let's talk about what vocabulary really means in your daily life. Vocabulary isn't just a list of words you memorize for a test. It's the foundation of your communication. It's the tool you use when you want to describe how you feel, ask for something, tell a story, or understand what someone else is saying. Imagine being in a foreign country and needing to find a bathroom or ask for directions. If you don't have the words, you're stuck. But if you know the right vocabulary, you feel empowered. You can move freely, express yourself clearly, and enjoy new experiences without stress. So, building a strong vocabulary isn't just for school or exams, it's for real life. One of the best ways to grow your vocabulary is through daily exposure and repeated use. This means surrounding yourself with English in small, consistent ways. If you only study English once a week, your brain doesn't get enough chances to recognize, remember, and use new words. But if you can find ways to bring English into your everyday life, like listening to a podcast on your way to work, watching a short video before bed, reading an article during lunch, then your brain starts picking up patterns in words naturally. You start to hear the same words in different situations. You start to guess what words mean based on context, and without even realizing it, you start to use those words yourself. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you hear the word confused in different places. One day, your teacher says, "I was confused by this question." The next day, a friend says, "I got confused during the movie." Later, you read in a book, "She looked confused when he told her the news." After hearing it a few times, you realize that confused means something like not understanding or being unsure. You didn't need a dictionary. You learned from hearing the word used naturally. This is how vocabulary learning becomes powerful through natural, repeated exposure. Now, let's do a short practice. I'll describe a situation, and I want you to guess the meaning of a new word based on context. Ready? Listen carefully. Sarah walked into the room, and everyone turned to look at her. She smiled nervously and said, "I'm sorry I'm late. There was a huge traffic jam." Her friend replied, "It's okay. We all got stuck in that traffic jam too." From this little story, can you guess what a traffic jam means? Yes, it's when there are too many cars on the road and everything slows down. You don't need a translation. You understood the meaning just from hearing it in context. This is a real-life example of how powerful contextual learning can be. Another great way to improve vocabulary is through reading. And I don't mean reading a grammar textbook. I mean reading things that you enjoy. Stories, news articles, short dialogues, or even social media posts. The key is to read often and to read a little more than you can fully understand. If everything is too easy, you won't learn new words. But if you read something just a little bit above your current level, your brain starts working harder to guess meanings, connect ideas, and remember new words. It's like giving your brain a small challenge every day. Let's say you're reading a story and you come across the sentence, "He whispered the secret so softly that nobody could hear it." Maybe you don't know the word whispered, but from the context, talking about secrets and speaking softly, you can guess that. Whispered means to speak very quietly. That's a new word added to your vocabulary just from reading. And now that you've heard it used naturally, you're more likely to remember it and use it in your own speech. Here's a quick reading-based practice. I'll read a short paragraph, and you try to understand the new word from the context. Ready? It was a cold morning. John wrapped his scarf tightly around his neck and stepped outside. The wind was strong, and his ears began to sting from the icy air. He hurried to the bus stop, hoping to get inside soon and warm up. Now, from this story, can you guess what sting means? Think about how John felt. His ears began to sting. That tells us sting means some kind of sharp or uncomfortable feeling, like a little pain. That's how you can learn new words from context, without needing to stop and check a dictionary every time. Another important strategy is using the new words you learn as soon as possible. When you learn a new word, it's like planting a seed. If you never water it, it won't grow. But if you use it in a sentence, repeat it to yourself, or try writing it in a journal, you are helping that word take root in your memory. Even if you make mistakes, that's okay. The key is to use it and not be afraid. The more you use new words, the more confident you become. Let's try a quick speaking style practice. I'll say a sentence, and I want you to repeat it after me. Or say your own sentence using the same word. First word, nervous. My sentence, I was nervous before the exam. Now you try. Make your own sentence. Maybe, I felt nervous before my job interview. Good. Second word, improve. My sentence, I want to improve my English vocabulary. Your turn. Try saying, I practice every day to improve my speaking. Excellent. These small practices are powerful. They help you move words from passive knowledge, just recognizing them, to active knowledge, using them with confidence. When building vocabulary, one very effective tool is keeping a vocabulary journal. It doesn't need to be fancy. You can use a notebook or even your phone. Every time you hear or read a new word, write it down. But don't just write the word and its meaning. Write the sentence where you saw it, or make your own sentence. This helps you remember not just the meaning, but how to use it. For example, if you learn the word challenge, don't just write challenge equals something difficult. Write, learning English is a fun challenge. Or, running a marathon was the biggest challenge of my life. This way, the word becomes part of your experience, not just something you memorized. Try to make your vocabulary journal a part of your daily routine. For example, at the end of each day, review any new English words you heard, read, or used. Even if it's just 2 or 3 words, write them down. Write the sentence you heard them in. Say the word out loud. Try making your own example sentence. These small habits add up over time. After a few weeks, you'll have dozens of new words you didn't know before. and they will be connected to your real experiences. That connection helps you remember better. Sometimes, learners feel shy or worried about using new words. They're afraid they'll say them wrong, or that people won't understand them. But making mistakes is part of the learning process. Every fluent speaker has made mistakes. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. So instead of waiting until you're 100% sure about a word, take a chance and try using it. If someone corrects you, that's a gift. Now you know how to say it right. If no one corrects you, that means you probably got it right. Either way, you're learning. Another technique you can use is grouping words by topic. Instead of learning a random list of vocabulary words, choose a category. For example, food. You can learn words like vegetables, fruits, cooking methods, and kitchen tools. Or choose the topic of emotions and learn words like happy, sad, excited, nervous, frustrated, and relieved. When you learn related words together, it's easier to remember them because your brain creates connections between them. You understand not just the word, but how it fits into the bigger picture. Let's practice with the topic of emotions. I'll describe a few situations, and I want you to guess the emotion. First, Anna just got a job offer she really wanted. She jumps up and down and shouts, "Yes!" How does she feel? She feels excited. Second, Tom studied hard for his test, but he failed. He puts his head in his hands and says, "I can't believe this." How does he feel? He feels disappointed. Third, Lucy lost her keys and she's late for work. She keeps looking under the couch and in her bag. She sighs and says, "Where are they?" How does she feel? She feels frustrated. See how these words become clearer when we use them in context? That's why grouping by theme and using context together works so well. You can also use technology to help you with vocabulary. There are so many apps available today that are made for language learners. Some are focused just on vocabulary. They show you flashcards, test your memory, and give you example sentences. Others are more like games, where you earn points by getting the answers right. These can be fun and helpful, especially if you use them regularly. But remember, no app is a magic solution. They're tools, not the whole method. The best way to grow vocabulary is to use new words in your daily life, in your own sentences, with your own voice. A great way to practice vocabulary is by watching shows or movies in English. Choose something with subtitles. First, try watching with English subtitles. When you hear a new word, pause and try to guess the meaning from the situation. Then look at the subtitle to confirm. If you don't understand, rewind and watch again. Write the new word down. You can even repeat the sentence out loud to practice pronunciation. For example, if you hear a character say, "I'm starving," and they're holding their stomach, you can guess that starving means very hungry. That's another word added to your list. Here's a little movie-style practice. Imagine a scene where two friends are walking through a park. One says, "It's so peaceful here. I love the sound of birds." The other replies, "Yeah, it's very relaxing. I needed this break." Now, what new words can we learn from this scene? Peaceful, relaxing, and break. All are related to calm feelings and rest. Now try using each of those in your own sentence. For example, "My room is very peaceful in the morning." Or, "Listening to music is relaxing." Or, I took a short break from work to stretch. These words are now part of your vocabulary. Storytelling is another powerful way to build vocabulary. When you tell stories, you use language in a natural and meaningful way. Even if you're just talking to yourself, try telling a story from your day. It can be simple. For example, this morning, I woke up late. I was in a rush, so I skipped breakfast. I caught the bus just in time, but I forgot my phone at home. It was a stressful start to the day. In this short story, you used words like rush, skip, caught, forgot, and stressful. These are all useful real-world words. And because they're part of a story, they're easier to remember. Let's do a storytelling practice. I'll start a story, and you finish it in your mind or out loud. Ready? Yesterday, I went to the market. I wanted to buy some fruit and vegetables. At one stall, the seller offered me a great deal on apples. I bought a big bag, but when I got home... Now, you continue. What happened next? Maybe you realized the apples were rotten. Or maybe you made a delicious pie. Try to include vocabulary words like deal, stall, offer, rotten, or delicious. These kinds of story-based practices make vocabulary feel personal and real. Now let's talk about repetition. Repetition is not boring, it's powerful. The more often you see or use a word, the stronger it becomes in your memory. Some learners feel like they need to learn 100 new words every week, but that's not necessary. It's better to learn 10 new words and review them many times than to try to learn 50 words once and forget them all. Use repetition smartly. Review your vocabulary journal. Reread a short story. Rewatch a video. Say the same word in different sentences. For example, confused. Say it in 5 different ways. I was confused during the test. He looked confused when I gave him the directions. She gets confused when people talk too fast. That math problem confused me. I'm still confused about what happened. That's how you build deep, strong vocabulary knowledge. There's another method that many advanced learners use. It's called word families. A word family is a group of words that have the same root or base word. For example, take the word act. From this root word, we get actor, action, active, activity, inactive, and so on. When you learn one word, try to learn its family too. This gives you more ways to express yourself and understand different forms of the same idea. Instead of learning just happy, learn happiness, unhappy, and happily. That's how you expand your vocabulary in a smart, efficient way. Let's practice with the word family of help. We have help, helper, helpful, helpless, unhelpful, and helping. Each of these has a slightly different meaning and use. Try using them in your own sentences. For example, can you help me with this bag? She is a good helper in the kitchen. This video was very helpful. I felt helpless during the emergency. That comment was unhelpful. I am helping my brother with his homework. Look how many new ways you've learned to use one idea just from learning a word family. Listening is another great skill to build vocabulary. When you listen carefully to real English conversations, you hear how words are actually used. You hear pronunciation, tone, rhythm, and context. Try listening to podcasts, radio shows, or even YouTube videos like this one. But don't just listen passively. Pause after a new word. Repeat it. Try to use it. Think about what it means. Listen to how it's said in different situations. The more you hear a word in context, the better you remember it. Let's do a listening style practice. I'll read a short dialogue. Try to pick out new words and guess their meaning. Person A says, "Hey, I can't hang out tonight. I have a ton of work to do." Person B replies, "No worries. Let's reschedule for the weekend." Now, the phrase hang out means to spend time with someone in a relaxed way. A ton of work means a lot of work. Reschedule means to plan something for another time. So, from just 2 sentences, you've learned 3 useful expressions used in daily life. Another habit that can help build vocabulary is thinking in English. This can feel strange at first, but it's incredibly helpful. When you think in English, you force your brain to stay in the language. You can describe what you're doing to yourself in your head. For example, when you wake up, say, "I'm brushing my teeth now." When you eat, say, "I'm eating breakfast, eggs, and toast." When you walk, say, "I'm walking to work." This sounds simple, but it's powerful. You will start to need new words to describe your actions, and that will naturally lead you to learn more. Let's practice a thinking out loud exercise. I'll describe a routine, and you imagine doing it and saying the words. Ready? I wake up. I stretch my arms. I get out of bed. I go to the bathroom and wash my face. I brush my teeth. I get dressed. I make coffee and toast. I sit down to eat. Then I check my phone. Now try doing the same thing, but use your own routine as you speak. You notice if there are any words you don't know in English. That's where your next vocabulary comes from. Reading is one of the most effective ways to learn vocabulary naturally. When you read stories, articles, or blogs in English, you see how words are used in different sentences. You also start to notice which words are formal, informal, common, or rare. Choose reading materials that match your level. If a text has too many unknown words, it can feel frustrating. Start with something easier, like graded readers or simple news articles. Then move to short stories, novels, or online articles that interest you. The more you enjoy the topic, the more motivated you will be to continue reading and learning new words. Try a short reading practice now. Listen as I read this passage, and try to understand the meaning of the bold words. Sarah loves animals. Every morning, she goes to the animal shelter to help care for the dogs and cats. She feeds them, cleans their cages, and plays with them. The animals at the shelter are waiting to be adopted by new families. In this passage, the words shelter, care, feeds, cages, and adopted are important vocabulary. What do they mean? Shelter is a place where animals are kept safely. Care means to look after. Feeds means to give food. Cages are small spaces to keep animals. Adopted means to take an animal home and make it part of your family. Try making your own sentences with these words. For example, I want to adopt a puppy. Or, he takes good care of his dog. Another way to make vocabulary stick in your mind is to use visuals. Even though this video doesn't have visuals, you can still use your imagination or draw pictures when you study on your own. When you learn a new word, try to picture it in your mind. If you learn the word mountain, imagine a tall, snowy mountain. If you learn the word library, Picture a quiet place full of books. The stronger the picture in your mind, the better you will remember the word. This technique is especially helpful for visual learners. Some learners find it helpful to use memory tricks called mnemonics. A mnemonic is a tool that helps you remember something. For example, if you want to remember the word bizarre, which means strange or unusual, you might imagine a zebra wearing sunglasses and dancing. That's a bizarre image, and because it's funny or weird, it helps you remember the word mnemonics. Don't have to make sense. They just have to be memorable. You can make your own for any new word. Think of a funny image, a rhyme, or a story that connects the word with something you already know. Let's try a mnemonic practice. Take the word fragile, which means something that can easily break. Imagine a frog sitting on a glass plate. Now, think. Frog on glass is fragile. That silly image connects the word to the meaning. Or take the word generous, which means someone who gives freely. Picture a genie giving gifts to everyone. Genie is generous. The funnier or more vivid your image is, the more likely you'll remember it. You can even draw it in your notebook if that helps. Another useful idea is using word roots, prefixes, and suffixes. English has many words that come from Latin or Greek roots. If you understand what a root means, you can guess the meaning of new words. For example, the root port means carry. So we get transport, import, export, and portable. All of these have to do with carrying something. The prefix un usually means not. So unhappy means not happy. The suffix full means full of. So joyful means full of joy. Learning these parts of words helps you unlock many new vocabulary items, even if you've never seen them before.